How did the greatest, most hopeful alliance in the history of Middle-earth lead to its absolute, most devastating defeat? Well, let's dive right into this explainer and unpack a true historical tragedy, the Fifth Battle.
The Elves actually named this battle the Nirnaeth Arnoediad, and if you translate that, it means unnumbered tears. It's a grim, kind of haunting name, right? But it perfectly signals the sheer stakes of what we're looking at. We're going to explore exactly why things went so disastrously wrong, and how a battle that literally began with the sunrise and ringing trumpets ended with an entire continent just drowning in grief, betrayal, and the utter shattering of the Elven kingdoms.
Section 1. The Union of Maedhros, a Grand League.
Section 2. A broken alliance, flawed from the start.
Okay, so to really understand this crushing defeat, we first have to understand the massive hope that preceded it. Maedhros, the son of Fëanor, saw the legendary deeds of Beren and Luthien. Remember, they actually managed to steal a Silmaril straight from Morgoth's crown. So Maedhros realizes something absolutely incredible. Morgoth isn't unassailable. This sparked a huge beacon of hope. Maedhros starts organizing this Grand League, the Union of Maedhros, trying to unite elves, men, and dwarves. But here's the catch. The politics surrounding this alliance pretty much doomed the elves from the very start. Ancient grudges and the haughty threatening words surrounding the Oath of Fëanor literally crippled this alliance before the first sword was even drawn. Because Maedhros haughtily demanded the Silmaril, King Thingol of Doriath basically fortified his borders and flat-out refused the call. Aradreth of Nargothrond also refused to march with the Sons of Fëanor because of their past evil deeds. So, the only help from Nargothrond was this small, valiant company, led by Prince Gwyndor. Now, on the flip side, a really massive, diverse host of dwarves and Easterling men did join the fight, but the alliance fundamentally lacked the full unified strength of the Eldar. That's a huge missing piece of the puzzle.
Section 3. Morgoth Spring's Trap, the Dark Lord's Guile. So, the tension reaches an absolute boiling point on the morning of midsummer. The elves' trumpets greet the sun, signaling Maedhros' grand maneuver. It was a classic anvil and hammer strategy. Maedhros' host in the east was supposed to march openly over the plains of Enfoglith, acting as the bait to draw out Morgoth's armies. Once Morgoth was fully committed, Fingon's hidden host in the west would suddenly issue forth from the hills, acting as the anvil, and basically crush the dark forces between the two armies. Honestly, it was a brilliantly designed maneuver. But Morgoth was already waiting.
But right before the trap could be fully sprung, something totally incredible happens that sends this massive shockwave of hope right through the western ranks. Unsummoned and totally unlooked for, Turgon, the Hidden King, suddenly opens the Leaguer of Gondolin and arrives with an army 10,000 strong. Their mail and swords literally shone like a forest of steel. When High King Fingon hears his brother's trumpet, the source tells us he felt the shadow just lift from his heart. He shouted this legendary war cry that echoed all through the hills. Utulian Aru, Aya el Dalier Anatatari, Utulian Aru, the day has come. Behold, people of the Eldar and fathers of men, the day has come. And the entire host roared back, the night is passing. It gives you chills, doesn't it?
But we have to remember, Morgoth is a master manipulator. He ruthlessly outmaneuvers the elves with this nasty two-part counter-strategy. First, he delays Maedhros in the east using a treacherous spy named Uldor, who feeds Maedhros false warnings of an attack. Second, he sends a force to the west with strict orders: draw Fingon out of his defensive hill positions no matter what. When simple taunts fail, Morgoth's captains bring forth Gelmir. Now Gelmir was a captured, blinded elf lord of Nargothrond. In full view of the elven walls, they brutally hew off his hands, his feet, and his head. And by sheer, tragic chance, Gelmir's brother, Gwyndor, was right there watching. Kindled to absolute madness, Gwyndor leaps forth on horseback, which basically forces Fingon to sound his trumpets and launch a chaotic, premature, and highly emotional charge.
And this premature charge immediately escalates into an accelerating disaster. Let's look at the timeline. On day 1, Gwyndor's onset is so unbelievably fierce it almost derails Morgoth's plans. They actually burst right through the gates of Angband. But they're trapped and slain, and Morgoth unleashes his hidden main host from secret doors. By day 4, the Western army is in a full, bloody retreat over the sands. On day 5, Turgon's fresh Gondolin army finally breaks through to aid his brother Fingon, and at the exact same time, Maedhros' eastern army finally arrives. For a brief moment, right around the 3rd hour of morning, hope is actually renewed. But by day 6, the field is utterly lost, culminating in the fall of Húr and the capture of Húrin.
Section 4. Treachery and Tears, the ultimate betrayal.
So that brief flash of hope on the 5th day, it's instantly shattered. Morgoth completely loses his last strength. He literally empties Angband of its absolute worst terrors. We aren't just talking about orcs anymore. He unleashes packs of wolves, wolf riders, balrogs, and dragons, and leading them all is Glaurung, the father of dragons. The sheer terror of this great worm withered elves and men alike. He violently swept right between the hosts of Maedhros and Fingon, keeping the hammer and the anvil permanently separated. The only force in the east that could actually withstand Glaurung's fire were the Dwarves of Belegost. Wearing their great hideous masks, they ultimately wounded the dragon, though their lord was tragically struck down in the process.
But here is the crucial point. Despite the Balrogs and the dragons, Morgoth still wouldn't have achieved his ultimate goal if not for the ultimate betrayal. Right in the very heat of battle, the Easterling men, specifically the sons of Ulfang, revealed their secret allegiance to Morgoth. They suddenly turned and drove right into the rear of Maedhros' forces. They attacked their own allies from within. Assailed on three sides, the eastern host just broke, scattered, and fled. So the battle wasn't just lost to monsters, right? It was lost to a devastating secret treachery that destroyed the Alliance's trust forever.
Section 5. The Final Stand. Men of Dor-lómin.
With the east entirely broken, the western battle collapses completely. Gothmog, the Lord of Balrogs, isolates High King Fingon. In a grim and terrible meeting, Fingon actually fights Gothmog one-on-one, until another Balrog casts a whip of fire around him, and the High King of the Noldor is hewn into the dust. The field is completely, utterly lost. But in this absolute darkness, we witness some truly heartbreaking heroism. The men of Dor-lómin, led by the brothers Húrin and Húor, flat out refuse to flee. They turn to King Turgon and convince him that he is the very last hope of the Eldar. They willingly choose to hold the pass of Sirion, sacrificing their own lives so that Turgon and the survivors of Gondolin can escape.
Foot by agonizing foot, the men of Dor-lómin are slaughtered, until only Húrin stands alone. He casts aside his shield and just wields his axe two-handed. The source text tells us that every single time he slew one of Gothmog's troll guard, Húrin cried out, "Aurien Tulawa, day shall come again." He shouted this desperate, unyielding war cry 70 times before he was finally buried beneath the sheer weight of his enemies and taken alive. Think about how beautifully, yet tragically, this contrasts with Fingon's hopeful shout of "the day has come" just a few days prior.
Section 6. Unnumbered Tears, Morgoth's Triumph. In the end, Morgoth's ultimate design succeeded perfectly. And not just in a military victory, but in planting a permanent fear and estrangement between elves and men. And for Húrin, who dared to defy and mock the Dark Lord to his face, the punishment was uniquely cruel. Morgoth binds Húrin to a stone chair high up on the peaks of Thangordrum. Declaring himself the master of the fates of Arda, Morgoth curses Húrin, forcing him to sit motionless, using Morgoth's own twisted eyes and ears to watch the impending ruin and despair of absolutely everyone he loves.
By Morgoth's command, the orcs gathered all the fallen elves and men and piled them into a massive mound right in the middle of the desert plain. They called it Houth in Dingen, the Hill of Slain, the Hill of Tears. But eventually, grass grew long and green upon this hill, the only living thing in the entire desert Morgoth made. It's a haunting, silent monument to the Union of Maedhros. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this to ponder. Was this absolute tragedy an inevitable result of Morgoth's overwhelming power, or was the real seed of their destruction already sown by the ancient pride, oaths, and division that kept their greatest allies at home?